guys. How you guys doing? Let me know if you can hear me well, if the mic is too soft, too loud. Let me know how the picture is doing. Is it pixelated? Are we clear? Let's do a technology check. Let me know what we're working with. Can you hear me okay? Greetings. Can you hear and see me okay? Hi. Awesome. You forgot you had this up? Did I scare you when I started talking? Hi, Not King. You forgetting is probably my fault. I'm not going to even hold you guys to it. I would like to apologize for my tardiness. I took a shower and then convinced myself that the water needed to warm up, and then somehow ended up scrolling, ended up on the ASMR side of Instagram, and then was like, oh shit, I actually have somewhere to be. Nice to see you. I'm good. I'm good. How are you guys doing? Hi, Wendy. How are you guys doing? Did you guys have a good weekend? I had a great weekend. And I want to tell you guys about it before we get into it. It is hypnotic. I'm good. I'm doing so good. I want to tell you guys about my weekend. I had an adventure before we get into today's chat topic, before I start calling people out. I feel like I should start with greetings, a hello for some people I feel like would be nice. So that's what we're going to do. This weekend, I went to the Peace of Mind Expo here in Atlanta. It was like the first annual one here in Atlanta. And super cool. It's like a wellness. So it's an expo, and like all the vendors are like wellness related, psychic related, spirituality related, magic related. It's like all that. So you had vendors there. I couldn't tell you the amount of psychics that were there doing readings. And then you had people that were there doing aura readings. And they had like the machine set up where you could take your picture if that's what you really wanted to do. There was like Reiki and all type of like holistic healing and massages, and then people selling like magic candles and balms and salves and all that type of stuff. It was like, honestly, it was like being in a fever dream. I had so much fun when I went in there. I went from table to table to table, and then spent some money. And I don't really know what happened. The adrenaline kicked in, and then I blacked out. And then next thing you know, I was walking out. But it was a great time. And I want to tell you about it. I want to tell you about my experience. So the first thing that I did, right? I have goodies. I want to tell you about it because they all have a story. So the first table that was there, it was like this person that was selling like soothing balms. And like I have super sensitive skin. And so I was like, I'll try it out because, the claims were, oh, I helped somebody heal their psoriasis and like eczema and all that type of stuff. And not necessarily that I believed it, but I also didn't disbelieve it. I do believe in the metaphysics. And then I was like, well, I have sensitive skin, it couldn't hurt, which it could hurt when you have sensitive skin, but I was feeling really optimistic. Okay. And so I got this stuff, this soothing emollient from Mother Nature's Concoction, LLC. And the reason why I was like, I'm going to get that was because like everyone that I was meeting had some really weird, divine, spiritual synchronicity, right? Like with this particular woman, it was her name. It's like the name of like my great grandmother. And like recently, spirit's been around super heavy, and I've never seen that name. I've never seen anybody with that name my entire life, but she had this name. She was wearing a name tag, and I was like, let me try some of that balm, right? Anyway, I tried a little bit today, and it was really soothing. I really, really liked it, and it helped my inflammation go down. It doesn't have too much of a smell, but I'll tell you what's in it just in case you feel like I can make some of that. So in it is nettles, comfrey, calendula, olive oil, and beeswax. But the thing is, I don't know the ratio of this, but like if you are, like an apothecary guru, an herbalist, and you're like, I could do that, that's what's in it. See? And for those of you that are like, well, what is that called again? Mother Nature's Concoctions, LLC. I think you can just put them into Google. I loved it. Good stuff. Then the second thing I did was probably my most exciting. I got a tea leaf reading. Never had a tea leaf reading before and was thrilled because I was like, this woman is legit. And the funniest thing is, I don't remember her name. I wish I remembered her name, but I don't. And there was no card that was given. So I don't even know how to contact this woman again. But I always find it interesting with like readers where like they come in, they drop some bombs, and then they like disappear off into the wind. It's like, oh, I needed that. I needed that. So anyway, so this was my cup. They let you keep the cup, right? And the way it works, it's like the shelf that you go up to, like a china shelf. And they tell you to pick the cup, any cup that you want. You pick a cup, and the reading is done with the cup that you pick, and you are allowed to keep the cup when you're done and like go with it. It's part of like the reading. And when I was there, I was like waiting in line, and the woman in front of me who was getting her reading, she had the most beautiful cup I had ever seen. And I was like, can I have that cup? Do you have another one of those cups? And they were like, sorry, like all of our stuff is thrifted. And like, it literally is like a one of a kind kind of scenario. Like the cup you get is the cup you get. The cup you're drawn to is the cup you're drawn to. And it just kind of is what it is, right? And so this was the one that I picked. And if you would see, it's still, well, you can't really see it. Actually, maybe it still has the tea in it. I figured I'd keep it. And like, because I just thought it was like the coolest thing. And the way she did it, she like made the tea. And then so she was like, put your questions in the cup, like hold the cup like this and then close your eyes and then like put your questions in the cup. So I had questions and I was putting them in the cup, right? And then she was like, now drink the tea. So I'm drinking the tea. I'm in the mode. Like, I'm like in the mood. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm feeling spiritual. My questions are in the cup. And then I was like, that tastes so nice. What is that? And she was like, Lipton. I was like, oh shit, that's embarrassing. It was Lipton tea, but something about the aura and the energy of it all, you felt like it was not Lipton tea. And then afterwards, she dumped it out, and then it had all this tea in it, and then she like read it, and it was like the coolest experience that I ever had. And it was nice because it was confirming about a lot of things that I was picking up on for myself, but like having someone that I like don't know, who I like didn't ask questions to, it was super like confirming and like validating. Homegirl, you okay, Duchess? She's doing that reverse sneeze thing that tiny dogs do. But it was a great experience. I loved it. I wish I can give you more. I wish I can give you the contact. I can't. I don't know who this woman was, but I got a cool cup, and I'm gonna keep the cup. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet, but I'm gonna keep the cup. The body, mind, and spirit. I've been to the body, mind, and spirit once before. Now I'm curious about the one that you went to, because I'm wondering if there's like more than one. Because I went to one, but the one that I went to, it was like in London. But I don't know if it's like the same one that goes everywhere, or if there's like a UK one and a US one. I'm not actually all that sure. And then at the same place, I got a deck of cards. This one, because it was $10. And I was like, what a bargain. What a bargain. Because on Amazon, the same deck of cards is like $25. So, like this. I mean, it's cute and everything. I mean, I wouldn't say like I love it, but I don't hate it. Like I said, I blacked out and then I was just shopping. And so, it is what it is. It's got a cool linen finish too. The cardstock is like super nice, but it is what it is. I was like, that please as well. Thank you very much. So I got that. And then I ended up with this, although I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. So at the same like booth, the people that were like the woman that had did the tea leaf reading, it seemed like it was like a family. So like it looked like there was a man, a woman, and then like a younger lady, maybe like early 20s or something like that. But they looked like a family. And one of them like made her own cards, which was this one. She like let me pick a card, and I gotta tell you, I don't know how I feel about this one. You know, Actually, my words when I picked it was, "Oh shit," you know, 21 captured and then turmoil, and then she didn't tell me what it meant. She just went, "That's your card," and I was like, "Oh, is it?" Um, Not a fan, not a fan, but it is what it is. I'm trying really hard recently, like not to let like tower-esque like cards like get me, mostly because like I'm in a phase of life, right? I've been in a phase of life for a while now. Although I will say I do think that I am handling the phase a lot more gracefully than I was maybe like 6 months ago. My life is changing and it's changing drastically. And some of those things I'm aware of, some of the things haven't yet been revealed, but it's one of those changes where it's like it's not enough to say that I'm doing a 180. Like, we're talking like it feels like I'm about to be reborn, pushed through another birth canal, like living another kind of life changing. And when it first started happening, I was like, this is crazy. Like, I was super scared, super anxious. Now I've kind of settled into the energy of it where I've realized that the things that I want don't exist in this life. It's too much. It's like too big for it to exist in this life. And so change is required, right? And so I've fallen into like this place of acceptance of like, well, let's just enjoy the ride and see where it goes. But I gotta be honest, whenever I see things like this pop out, your girl's only human. I'm only human. And then I ended up with this, a gift. I made a donation to a monastery, I think. I think that's what they're called. I mean, it was a bunch of monks, really. And I don't know what happened. I blacked out. I was walking. They were very peaceful and very kind and asked for a donation. And I know that like that's how they like survive. And I was feeling like super generous. And then they gave me this gift. And it's a lot of books. And I haven't opened it and I haven't even looked at it. But like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it this way. I'm just gonna hold the books up and then you can see how you feel about it. And, I'm a little overwhelmed by this. I'm a little overwhelmed. I like spiritual books and spiritual teachings. And in fact, it's the majority of what I read. And I love reading it from all walks because I like to understand how people from all perspectives relate to the same thing, right? Whether you call that God or you call that the all or the all that is, it's the same thing. And I enjoy seeing how people relate to that. So I like reading these kind of things, but I mean, I got to tell you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's 9 here, So I'm not really sure. They said that they print them. That this particular like monastery, they like they write and like they print it themselves. And I was like, whoa, you know, and that's what my donation got me. Some information, some knowledge. It is a gift, right? Isn't that so cool? Like, yeah. Particularly interested in the self-realization one and then the journey of self-discovery one. I will look into those at some point when not really all that sure. Not that sure. And then, because I told you, I blacked out, right? I ended up with the honey. Now, why honey is relevant, I don't know. Maybe it's like the bees or, nature. I don't really know how it's relevant, but it was at that moment for me. And this like vendor, this company, they put like CBD in their stuff, and then they said that it has spiritual meaning. I don't remember anything that he said. Okay. But the description says the spice electuary is an invigorating blend of cordyceps and aromatic herbs with raw honey for a sweet and soothing support to the digestive system. I don't know. It looks like this. It does taste like chai. It has a nice blend of herbs. I was able to taste it, and at that moment, I was like, I'll put it in my tea. Whether this ends up in my tea, I don't I don't yet know. I blacked out. So, but it's super cute. And I do think it would probably make a nice tea, I think. And hopefully it keeps me regular. I don't know, it was cute. The guy was really, really nice. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I don't know. And then the last thing I've got, which is super cool, is I went and I also did an aura reading. I love doing aura readings. I think it's the funnest thing ever. Whenever I see someone with that machine, I always am dying to know what color I am. And this particular person that was doing it did it in a way that I had actually never seen it done before. And then I ended up with like 2 photos, which was like the coolest thing ever. So before I show you, you want to take a quick guess? Any guesses about what the color is? Anyone want to read it really quick? And then we'll do ooh, blue. Thank you. I do them myself. I do my nails myself. So when people say these things to me, it really it's like honestly like the highest form of honor. I don't care what anybody else says, but like if someone is like, I love your nails, I'm like, oh my God. Okay, we've got a blue, we got a purple, we got a blue, green, a purple, and orange, and we've got a light blue. So, well, you guys, I was a little surprised. I'm usually a blue. But but like I do remember when I first started my spiritual journey and I found the machine for the first time, and this was like many years ago. The first time I ever had my aura taken, it was green. And ever since then, over the years, it goes back and forth between green and blue, green and blue, green and blue, green and blue. But I don't really usually see other colors. But yeah. But the thing that separated this person from all other people that I've ever seen do it ever was that you also got a full body scan, which I thought was the coolest thing. I had never seen that before. Never seen a full body scan before. And the chakras. So you can see how that day, you can see how my chakras are actually doing. Some are bigger than the other. Some are more active than the other. There are some that need a little bit of work. My heart chakra is thriving. I absolutely love that for me. My throat chakra is solid. That root could use a little bit of work though, right? I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I had never seen anyone do that. And it's really interesting because this one is so clear. It's like my third eye is actually a little bit overactive. And you can tell because it's like bright, but it's not like a solid circle. So it just means I've been using it a lot. And then my solar plexus are a little bit underactive. They're not as yellow as they probably should be. And you can see the root and the crown are a little bit smaller, which makes sense because the root and the crown, people don't always know this, but they have a tendency to interact with each other. If you have things going on in your root where like you're thinking about your security or your survival, then that has a correlation to like your faith, right? And your connection to like the heavens or whatever. And so they do have a tendency to sort of go together. And these are going together at this particular moment during that day, which wasn't surprising to me on account of the fact that like my life is transitioning right now and I don't really know what's going on. And so, yeah, that made sense when I saw it. So, and then my sacral is over there sacraling. She's got a whole lot of creative energy, you know? Ooh, is there a newsletter or email list I should sign up for so I can be aware of events like the one you went to? I don't have a newsletter. The way I find them, I have this thing where just randomly I'll Google like expo, like or like spiritual expo or psychic fair. I'll just randomly start Googling and that's how I find them. And the algorithm picks up on that. And so like if I'm scrolling on Instagram, it'll show me something that may be in the area. But I would say like just like randomly check Eventbrite like once a quarter, things like that. I can tell you in Atlanta, there's one expo or show that comes regularly, and there's a gym show. I don't know where you live, but like if you're in Atlanta, there's a gym show that comes like every 3 to 6 months to Atlanta. They're usually like held somewhere in Duluth or like Lawrenceville, if that's the area that you're in. For people that don't live in Atlanta, like this means nothing to you. But if you're interested in that, literally, if you just type in gym show Atlanta, it'll pop up for you. And then you can just like follow them on socials, and then they like let you know when they're in town. So I need this in my life. I need like a thing that's like, hey, work on this, this, this. This, that is working good, but go do 3 ohms and 5. That's funny. Do you still do your own nails? They are different. Yes, I do my own nails. Are they different because they look like I've practiced? Because I have. I do still do them myself because I can't imagine myself paying for something like this anymore. This is a lot of money and I wouldn't want to pay for it. But anyway, if you're interested in the aura and you are in the southeast region of the US, go ahead and take a screenshot. And because this was the aura lady that I went to, and this is her schedule, and this is where she's going to be. And, if you're also in Atlanta, you can, and I don't really, because, I got beef with the Phoenix and Dragon. But if you are in Atlanta and the Phoenix and Dragon, they always have events there too. You can go to the website and see if there's anything that resonates with you. I got beef with them, but, they're still right now like the most known place in the area. And so people still do their stuff there, but in a spirit of like not gatekeeping, I guess, So that was my weekend. Also, matter of business, I will not be going live next week, all week. Why? Because next week is my birthday. And so I will be in the streets thoroughly for an extended period of time, frolicking. And so I will just be unavailable. Okay. But I'll be back the week after, next week, after I've done my frolicking. Yeah. This week is your happy birthday. Oh, Geminis. Oh, what a problem. It's so interesting. I've only just recently started liking Geminis, which is, I'm a hard Gemini, and that's probably why I wasn't a fan, but like, yeah, I've healed, I've had to go through some things. Thank you guys. Okay, so today's topic, what came through? Oh, you're a Gemini sun and a moon. And the moon. Oh, wow. So what came through is that it's all part of the plan, right? So it's really interesting because I've been finding that there's like this theme that is sort of being woven in terms of like there is for some people like this end goal. Maybe it's not a goal yet. Maybe you feel like it's just a distant dream, but like a desire, like a thing that you would like to have, but then this feeling that like it's far away or maybe not possible. There's some feelings of like, I'm trying really hard to be positive, but like, I just genuinely don't see how all of this is going to work together. Like how all of this is going to link up, how I'm going to get from here to there. There's a feeling of like where you're at today seems so far from where you would like to be that like you couldn't begin to start mapping it out even if you tried, right? And so it's like, I'm trying really hard to be positive for my manifestation. I'm trying really hard to change my belief systems. I'm really trying to like work with the metaphysics here, but there's just something about it on a physical level, on a 3D level that just feels far and like out of reach. It's almost like you can see it kind of, but it just feels like if you reached out to grab it, you couldn't really get your hands on it. You couldn't really wrap your hands around it. And so, like, what came through is it's part of the plan. And so then that sort of broke out into like many different reasons. So, one way it broke out is that anything that you feel like that happened to you that didn't work out, that was unfortunate, that left you maybe feeling disadvantaged, if you were dealing with people who you feel like were mean to you or not kind to you, or maybe you were in a relationship and they broke up with you, maybe it was a job and you got passed over for a promotion, maybe you lost a job, like what, you had a falling out with someone that you love, like a best friend or a family member, like whatever, anything that you feel like has happened that was a little unfortunate, even if it was a situation where like you got into a car accident and like now your car is totaled and you don't have anything to drive and now you're taking public transportation, right? Or like, and it could be so much, what I'm literally just hearing now, it can be as something as simple as like you ate something and then you got food poisoning. What came through is that everything is part of the plan. And the reason why it's all part of the plan is because there is no redundancies. The universe doesn't have redundancies. Nature does not have redundancies. If by the off chance nature finds a redundancy, that redundancy is then eliminated, right? But the universe doesn't operate with just redundancies because that's not a state of balance. Everything is on purpose and everything is actually a part of the plan. So, what I need from you, and this is now where I jump down your throat, is to be a lot more creative when it comes to how you feel things are actually linked and tied together, right? Because all of it's tied together. And so I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. And I'm going to try to make the example as far away as possible so you understand the extent of where I'm going, right? Let's say, I'm going to go with nails because we were talking about it. Let's say you are someone and you're like, you know what? I would love to have my own nail business, but I can't even polish my toes. If I try to polish my nails, it gets everywhere. I can't keep it off my skin. I wouldn't know anything about acrylic or how it works. I don't have a license. I don't know how I would get one. I know nothing about business. I don't even know like how to get a business license. Like, what does that mean? I have no idea how much it costs. I don't know anything I need, right? But for some reason in your heart, you're like, I really would love a nail business. Something about it. It just sings to me, right? But then you're like, but I can't draw. I don't have any like art skill, whatever. But something in your like your heart is like, this is, I really want to do this. And you've been thinking about wanting to do it for a really long time, but you feel like everything, you don't know anything and it's just working against you and it doesn't make any sort of logical sense to want to do that. And then let's take that and extend it. Let's say maybe what you currently do, maybe you work at a car wash, right? Maybe you're a cashier at a car wash and maybe you feel like, maybe it's a job. You don't really feel like there's like room for upward movement. You're just kind of there for now and you don't really understand like how it ties together, right? That is still heavily linked to each other. And the reason why it would be heavily linked to each other is because it would be a situation where most car washes are usually owned by families. Even the car washes that are franchised, it's usually a family, right? And so maybe you're a cashier, but then you're around people who actually own a business. And if you are diligent in how you are watching them, then you can actually learn business skills. Although you just feel like you're a cashier, you're learning business skills because you're watching other people run a business. And that those people could be succeeding or they could be making mistakes every day, messing up the money or whatever. Either way, you're learning what to do when you're running a business and you're learning what not to do when you're running a business, right? And so there's still a link between being a cashier at a car wash and wanting to have your own nail salon. But you feel like because that's a car wash and that's a nail salon and you don't have any business sense that they don't work together. But when I say that it's part of the plan, is that everything that you're going through is linked somehow because there is no redundancies. And so what it's about is about reframing how you view what's happening and understanding that everything is designed to work for you because it is you, right? Again, life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. So it's linked. And your soul, your higher self, is going to drop you nuggets along the way in order to get you to where it is that you're going. Because let's say you are that person that wants to open a nail salon. Where you're at currently mentally, you won't have an ability to fathom, comprehend, digest, conceptualize, accept that this is actually available for you. You would spend your whole time finding all of the reasons as to why it could not work, which was all the reasons I listed in the beginning, that it wouldn't even occur to you to consider the fact that it is linked, right? And so what I heard today is that I'm telling you, because you need to hear, is that it's linked. And this literally applies to anything. If you're like, this is where I want to go, but I feel so far away, it's linked. Where you are today, what you've gone through, it's all on purpose. There is something that you are taking with you into the next experience that helps you in that next experience. Let's say it's a situation where you're like, I know I really want to be in a loving relationship. I want someone who loves me dearly and treats me kind. But up until this point, I keep ending up with people who are not that way, who are emotionally unavailable, who keep breaking my heart. Or maybe you've ended up with good people, but maybe you're the avoidant and you keep pushing them away. It is through these relationships and these interactions with people that you are learning how to be a good romantic partner, that you are learning what you actually want in a romantic relationship, where you are learning what you are willing to give in a romantic relationship, potentially willing to sacrifice in a romantic relationship, willing to potentially tolerate in a romantic relationship, because no one's perfect, right? And so it's through these scenarios that you're learning what love is. It's through the heartbreak that you then understand what love is, because in that moment, you say to yourself, oh, this isn't love. Oh, the way you're treating me, I now know that these behaviors don't actually demonstrate what love is. And it's through that, like, that you're learning. That's the lesson. The lesson is being able to identify what is love and isn't love. So as you move forward, you can make better decisions that will ultimately end you with the person that you're actually supposed to be with. Because if that is you, where you are today, if that person walked into your life right now, what would happen is you'd fuck it up. If the love of your life walked into your life right now, you would fuck it up. You would push them away. You would do something wrong. And it's not even specifically about making the mistake. It's about understanding what the mistake was, taking accountability for the mistake, understanding how you played a role, understanding how you played a part in the situation, understanding that, yeah, maybe your heart is broken, but were you an instigator? Were you a catalyst to an ending? And it's you going through these situations with people that are helping you understand what to do when you get to where you're supposed to go, as well as what not to do when you get to where it is that you're supposed to go. It is all linked. And so what you need to do is be more creative at finding where the link is, because there is no redundancy. It could be like one skill. Maybe it's a job and you feel like it's a dead end job, right? There's a cap, there's a ceiling, you can't move forward, you can't progress, it's frustrating you. Maybe you're in a situation where you would like to get a raise or you would like to get a promotion. Maybe you told your manager and nothing happened and that's frustrating you, right? What you have to do is find the link. Sometimes what happens is that people go, oh, well, maybe it's not meant for me. No, maybe you are done in that place. Everything is constant, everything is moving, and you're supposed to be moving. When you stop moving, when you stop moving forward, when you stop the process of evolving, that is when you get to a point when you feel stuck. If it's a situation with the job and you're like, I can't go further, or you feel like I don't have the skills, I don't have the experience, that's not true. It's still linked because it's in your heart, right? What's happening is your heart is talking to you, and then your mind takes over and then convinces you that what your heart has actually told you is incorrect, it's not wrong. And what your mind is going to do is find the links that it believes shows that it's not possible to go from A to B. And so then you'll sit there and be like, oh my God, I can't go from A to B. It's not like there's absolutely no way, because that's your mind talking. But your heart told you that you could. Your heart told you that you could actually get there. And then so what happens is we develop all these different techniques, like well, it's not that like we develop these techniques because I do think a lot of these techniques work, right? Like manifestation, yes, quantum jumping, yes. But if you don't understanding what you're jumping through, then a quantum jump may not necessarily be all that helpful because where did you start and where did you finish, right? You have to actually know where you're going. What is it that you're actually doing? You can quantum jump all day long, but if you're trying to quantum jump to a reality that has this bigger thing that you actually want for yourself, but you don't think that you can get there, I don't know why you would think a quantum jump would actually fit. Like it's not going to fix the problem. One thing about metaphysics is that Delulu is the Salulu. Okay. Sometimes it's about holding something that other people think is actually crazy and like holding it until like be ready to die on that hill because it's going to go with you, but you have to hold it. If it's in your heart, it's there for a reason. If it's in your heart, then there's a link. If it's in your heart, that means you can see it. And you are already 10 steps ahead when you can see in front of you because the majority of the world do not see the way we see. The majority of the world does not have something that weighs on their heart. The majority of the world is just going by the wind and seeing what happens in life. And then that's why they're so miserable because they feel like they have no control over anything that's actually occurring. But that's not you. If you can feel it and see it and dream it and imagine it and it's sitting in your heart, then that means it's supposed to happen. And that means that wherever you currently are, there is a link between that place and then where it is that you're going. So find the link. How is what you're currently experiencing or going through, how does that benefit you going forward? Because everything benefits you. Everything is meant to work in your favor. And if you can switch your thinking to thinking, this all is going to work out for me because it always works out for me and everything is meant to benefit me, even if it's something that happens that you don't necessarily prefer, know that, well, it happened because it's supposed to work for me. So I'm just going to take a step back and allow it to work for me. Because when you concocted the blueprint of life prior to your incarnation, you had a plan. And if you are seeing things and it's sitting in your heart, that is the blueprint. So allow yourself to continue following your heart and not go, okay, well, let me jump into my mind and then let your mind psych yourself out. And then now suddenly you can't get to where it is that you wanted to go because now you think it's not possible when like that's not the case. We have to remember that nothing in this reality is actually set in stone, right? None of it is actually stuck, right? Like for with money, people think that like all this work is required to have a certain amount of money and that like it can't just appear. It can't just show up, right? But like when you think about like the earth and how the earth is actually operating, there's not like aliens from other planets dropping money off. Like it's getting created out of thin air. It is literally popping up out of thin air. So why can't that happen for you? Right. And if you say that to people, people are going to think you sound crazy. But the Lulu is a Salulu sometimes. And sometimes you have to be like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to allow you to be logical and stay miserable because you don't actually know how to dream about anything. Maybe that's the crux of my issue. I feel like I'm not moving, and it's maybe that I'm not evolving or improving. Chantel says, I can't stop. Oh my gosh, you're so right. This is about my job, my financial stability. Thank you. You're welcome. The Delulu Salulu mindset can get tricky when you step out and feel like you're making it up, and then the traction is off course. Well, you are making it up. Hmm. That's what you're doing. That's what this whole thing is. That's the trick. That's the key. You're making it up. And if you get into a point where you realize you're slowing down or there's no momentum or you're hitting an impasse or you're going up against the wall, it's because you quite literally stopped. So when you like jobs to me is like the easiest way to describe it because if you're ever in a work situation and there's even like financial stability or you're trying to figure out where you're going but you feel stuck, it's because you stop moving a lot of the times. Sometimes you end up in a situation at work and maybe you've been there for a little bit, but like you're not actively trying to get out of the job. You're not actively trying to change. Maybe you're applying to jobs, but we have this thing that I've noticed, and I noticed it because I've done it. I've watched friends do it. Having an HR background, I've watched employees do it, where you may know, your heart may know that it's time to move on, that it's time to progress to a new job. And then, but because you're afraid of what that could mean, the change that it could look like for you, you may be applying to other jobs, but it's the belief system that is in the way that's not allowing the process to finish. If you're scared to leave, but you're applying to different jobs, it's not unreasonable that you're not getting anything back because you already have resistance to your actual leaving in the first place. If you ever feel stuck, it's because you stopped moving. And if you feel like you didn't stop moving by action, you feel like, well, I'm doing all of those things that I feel like I'm supposed to be doing in order to continue to progress, then you need to ask what's happening internally, what's happening emotionally, what's happening mentally. Have I stopped emotionally because it's overwhelming? Have I stopped mentally because it's too much to process, right? Have I stopped mentally because it's bringing up all of these follow-up questions that I don't have the answer to right now. And so because of that, I've stopped. I've put up my own energetic wall of resistance because even though my heart is telling me that I should go, right? Because my heart is telling me the next part of the plan, right? My mind is telling me that it's not logical. And so my mind has actually stopped me. And so I'm in this push-pull relationship with self as I'm trying to figure out what it is to do. Your heart will always tell you it's time to go. And it will always tell you it's time to go at a time when you look around and nobody else seems to be moving. No one feels like it's time to go at the same time. You will be like, I think this place is fucking bananas. Does nobody else see this? Is it just me? And there'll be a moment where, yeah, it'll be just you because it's your plan, not their plan. And so your heart will tell you to move sometimes faster than you are mentally ready to respond to, right? And so that's like, there's this idea where people say, ask and you shall receive. But like the rest of that is, and then be prepared to act. So you ask for the thing that you want, but then be prepared to move. Because once you ask for it, it's time to go. But if you're sitting there going, what does that mean? Or I'm not ready, or maybe you feel ready, but maybe you haven't worked out the supporting details. Maybe you know it's time to go, but you don't have step 2 and 3. And so you're like, oh shit, I hold on, wait a minute. Let me get my bearings, right? But when it's time to go, it's time to go. I was scared of shit. I've been there. I've been there. I'm looking for a job, but the way I was let go of my previous one messed me up. My confidence took a hit, and I'm still looking 2+ months later. Wow, wow. I mean, look, I have been let go from jobs. It is like not the end of the world. Are you in the United States? If you are in the US, I'm gonna need you to bounce back. And I'm gonna tell you why. There are no laws in this country to protect any employee from anything unless you are a part of a union. And people, and with an HR background, people let people go over some bullshit. Okay. Look, look, I don't have enough room on this line to tell you the shit that I've seen from an HR perspective and why people get fired for the reasons they get fired for. But what I can tell you is that I have seen enough to know never take it serious, like never take it personally. Never take it personally. Because when you are in an area where everything is at will and there are no laws that protect employees, people do things that are at will. People get fired because they said something that offended their boss, but their boss was too much of a pussy to say, hey, you hurt my feelings. And so then the boss will just fire them because they're actually feeling really triggered and the person never actually did anything at all. Like, so don't take it personally. I know that's easier said than done because like when it comes to job situations, it feels personal. That's your livelihood. That's how you survive. That's how you take care of your family. How dare you impact my livelihood, right? And so it is a personal feeling, but I hope that you're not taking it and then making it about like why you're this or why you're that, or you're using it to justify worth or your identity. Because when I tell you, it means nothing. It means nothing. Yeah, the job search process feels yeah, it feels disposable, the whole thing. They moved me to put someone else the next Monday by sneaky means. Yeah, yeah. They do that. It's awful. And it's very anti-HR of me, but people be really beyond the bullshit, you know? So I really hope that you're not using that to like justify, self-worth or anything. It's okay to be a little sore, you're human, but don't sit in it. My mom, she used to say to me, you got 3 days, right? So if I was having a moment where I felt like just intense levels of like rejection or like feeling wronged or like betrayed or just upset, maybe I felt like I failed at something, she would say to me, you have 3 days, pick your 3 days, meaning go to your room and then figure out what 3 days in the week you're actually going to use to like mourn what happened, right? And then I would recommend you pick the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But after your 3 days, on Monday morning, you're going to stand up, you're going to pull your shit together, and you're going to move forward with life, because if you don't move forward with life, life is going to move forward without you. And so she was like, give yourself that window of opportunity to feel, to cry, to mourn, to be angry, to shout, to eat too much, to drink too much, to sleep too much, like whatever you feel like you need to do in order to process and validate your experience, do that. You got 3 days, but at the end of your 3 days, you stand up and you keep moving, because mama ain't raised no bitch. And so give yourself 3 days. I'm giving you 3 days. All right? Pick your 3 days. And then when you're done, stand back up. You're welcome, Chantel. You are welcome. Is there a spiritual meaning behind losing loved ones in threes? I mean, if you want there to be a spiritual meaning, I never put a spiritual meaning to it other than the nigga died. I've had that situation with in my family where people just drop. Like it was like flies. You would have thought that like shit, we fucked up in the past life. Like it was bad. Like people just drop. And when I mean drop, I literally mean, like, for example, my mother stood up and then dropped. Like she literally dropped. She fell down. She dropped to her knees. And then that was it. And that was how she was found, bent over on her knees. Like she literally dropped dead. And there was a lot of family members that all died at the same time. And like it was so bad that the funeral home was like, damn, you still here? Like you keep calling us. But one thing I will say is that I never associated that with a deeper spiritual meaning other than it was time to go, and that maybe they as souls had a plan amongst themselves. Maybe they had an agreement amongst themselves that they would go around the same time. But I don't think that there's a larger meaning about threes other than sometimes they just die. You know? I could say it like this now because I've gone through a substantial amount of healing. Now I'm like, yo, ma, like that was a crazy way to go. Your mom, your dad, your auntie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with my family, it was it was my grandma, grandpa, sister, mother, boom, 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 boom. And I'm talking like within like 3 months of each other. Like some of them, yeah, they just was out. They was like, peace, y'all got it. Take over from here. Mm-hmm. But I've never looked at it as a larger meaning than it was just their time to go. At that time, it was hard. It was really rough because you lose one person, so you go to your other loved one and then you go to them for comfort. But then what happens? Where do you go for comfort? When they all went at the same time, like the people that you would go to comfort, to grieve with, to mourn with, they're all gone, right? And you are double grieving, triple grieving. You're grieving everybody at the same time, and it's confusing. And then there's this element of like feeling like you got left behind, or like, why'd you guys go without me? It's a very nuanced kind of grief because it's stacked on top of each other. It's not just grieving one person and then healing and then another and then healing. It's doing all of it at the same time, and oftentimes doing it relatively isolated and by yourself because the people that you would have gone to for support are not there. You are grieving them. The people that you would have gone to ask the questions about, well, what do I do now, are the ones that are gone. And so it is difficult. It's a really difficult process. I would say for me, I've reached a point where I'm just really grateful that I had an opportunity to hang out with them during this go of life. And when I'm done kicking ass, I'll see them later. And but it took a long time for me to get there. Like we're talking like 10, 11 years before I was like, all right, see you later. But like them years was rough. Those years was rough. So so yeah, the only thing I can think of is that you can do it, you know? If you lose that many people, that means that you were strong enough. There's also, if you lose that many people, because you're saying your mom, your dad, and your auntie, those are people that hold very formative roles in someone's life, very structured roles in someone's life, very important roles in someone's life. And if they go all at the same time, then that means something for you, you were ready. And I don't know your life, so I can't tell you what you were ready for, but you were ready. And typically, when you have all of your what you perceive to be your security blanket break at the same time, a lot of times what I've seen, this is a personal observance, but just like working with people, doing readings, what I've seen it seems to be the same across the board, is that those people a lot of times would have spent their lifetime devoted to those people, caring for those people, looking after those people. And it would have created a situation where the large dreams that you did hold, the things that you wanted to do, the freedom that you wanted to have, some of that would have been sacrificed because you would have sacrificed it for the people that you love. And so sometimes when you feel like you have your network break so quickly like that, it's because it needed to in order to allow you to fly. It's like releasing a bird. And so they go, okay, we did our job. You're ready. We're also ready. We lived our life. We're like, and it's a part of the plan, right? And so when that happens, what I've seen is that it's a releasing of that person that is the survivor. We think that we have been left behind, but it's not that we have been left behind. We have been put to the front. We have been pushed to the front of the line now, because now all that's left for you to focus on is you, yourself, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, and going as far as you would like it to go, because there's nothing that's now stopping you. And you will be supported from the other side. You'd be amazed at how much they have an ability to do from the other side. They're very efficient over there, and they're still working over there. And so now where you're going to be is redesigning the relationship that you have with them, understanding that it's not a loss. They're still there. And when I say that, I recognize how cliche it sounds, right? Like, it's like, oh, they're in your heart, right? They'll always be in your heart. But like, no, like they literally sometimes just be hanging out in the goddamn kitchen. One time I had a group session. I went to group Reiki, and we were like talking about like passed on loved ones and stuff. And I was talking about my mother. And I was saying like it's okay. Like me and my mom are still cool. And I like very genuinely like mean that, because we still have a relationship. And one of the women, bless her heart, she was like, "Oh, you mean like she's in your heart?" And I was like, "No, she'd be in my kitchen." Like, no, she's like literally like around. And so with you, it's just understanding that it's just the relationship has evolved, and learning how to communicate with them while they are now in their evolved state. They didn't go anywhere. They're still there to support you. They can still talk. They can still interact. And if you feel like your skills aren't like there to be able to perceive that, you can develop your skills in order to be able to perceive that. And you'll realize that the love and the support is still there. It's just how they support you is just a little bit different. You can go to them and still get the advice that you need. You just have to learn how to hear them differently now. And so now it's just about you evolving, or allowing the relationship you have with them to evolve, if that's something that you would actually want to experience. Yeah. You don't have to try not to cry. You can feel it. I've been through this. Like, you can feel it. You can feel what you feel. Like, if you need to let it out, if you need to mourn, if you need to validate. If you need to validate what you're currently experiencing, validate what you're currently experiencing. It's part of the human experience. It's part of the process. Validate it. Yes, Adrian, yes. Validate that. Validate what you're feeling. Validate the loss. Validate the grief. Audra, I would say it's not weakness. It's just part of the process. There were times where I felt weak. I mean, there were times where I didn't like, when I tell you, there was a period of time where I lost my like I'm talking lost my mind, was put on suicide watch because they were like, she can't handle this. She's gonna do something, right? Like not knowing where I was, running in the middle of the street screaming, not wearing shoes. Like when I tell you I have been to the depths and back, right? The strength came with like time. Oh, it came with a decade. It came with like time, and it came with watching other people and my family grieve, realizing that they weren't necessarily healing in a way that I wanted to heal for myself. And then being able to compare and be like, oh, well, I know damn well my mother wouldn't have wanted that. Right. Like knowing her, that woman, this is coming across pathetic. And then realizing that, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing. And then being like, okay, well, what can I do? Realizing that it's a disservice to them to stop living, realizing that the people in my life passed away so they can get out of the way so I can live my life. And it's a disservice to them for me not to do so to the fullest. It is a disservice to my mother not to be the greatest fucking thing that I can come up with. It's a disservice to her and everything that she went through. Not to be like, all right, mom, I'm going to fucking kill it. You watch this shit. Like, because that's what she would have wanted. It's a disservice to like my sister not to be the baddest fucking bitch I can fucking be because she was the baddest fucking bitch that she could fucking be. And don't let her catch me thinking I wasn't a bad bitch out in the world. She had a problem with that. She had a problem watching her little sister move through the world with having low levels of confidence. She had a problem with that. It would be a disservice to her to do that. It would be a disservice to her not to be fly. And so I had to like come out. I had to recognize that what I was feeling is lost because I love them dearly, but that also understanding that I gained something and that something I gained was freedom. And it was a hard it was hard to admit that my mother passing away was one of the best gifts that woman could have ever gave me because she freed me. And the reason why she freed me is because I had committed to taking care of her for the rest of her life. I knew as a teenager that I was going to go to school that was close to her. I was always going to see about my mother, that I was going to find a regular job or a nice enough job, but something that was local. My plans were to live with her so she didn't have to be lonely. I had devoted my life to my mother. And I wouldn't have lived the life that I've currently had if she was alive. And I wouldn't live the life that I know I'm going to live if she was alive. She gave me freedom. She allowed me the ability to fly and to experience life. And I had to admit that I felt free because when I finally felt free, I felt guilty about it. And I had to admit that is actually what happens. It frees up a lot of obligation and a lot of responsibility. And they love you and they want you to feel free and they want you to feel released of obligation and responsibility. They want you to feel like you have what you need to do what it is that you want to do and live the way you want to live. J Baby says they are more connected to me on the other side than they were in real life. They have been a huge part of my team. They couldn't help me in human form as they can in spirit form. Agreed. Agreed. My family, they didn't know. They were going through their own life shit. They were also battling life and the people that were in it and trying to figure out how to survive. And they did it didn't matter how much they loved me, they did not have the ability, the capacity, at some points, the knowledge or the wisdom to support me in the way that I would have wanted to be supported. Not when they were on this side, because they also too were battling life. But they're free too. And now they help a lot. They're very helpful from that side. Christina says, Audra, grief is not to be compared. You are on your journey. Absolutely. It's your journey. And how you experience it is how you experience it. It's been 12 years since your mom passed. Moms are it's a the thing with a mom passing is that you have to learn how to interact with your mom in a new relationship. For most people, and this is not all people, everybody has different, they have different relationships with their mother, right? But you are talking about the person who you have an energetic connection with, that you at one point in time had a physical connection to. You are talking about your portal into this world. You're talking about your portal for this incarnation. You are talking about someone who you grew inside of, someone who you were literally connected to. And then when you came out of the womb, someone who they tried to sever the connection by cutting the umbilical cord, but they never quite severed the energetic connection, because you can't do that when it comes to your mother. Your mother is your gate. Your mother is your portal. And that is why when moms pass away, the grief is a little different than when anybody else pass away. A mom passing and a dad passing is a very different kind of grief, because it's the first time when you feel there is a sense of detachment and disconnection that happens when your mom passes, because your portal left. The portal, the thing, the person that was your connection to the other side is now gone. And that is why it's such a profound loss. And it's a loss where people feel like they don't know whether or not they're coming or going. And it's a loss that triggers this sense of loss of direction. You don't know where you're going. It's a loss where you can lose a mother and be an adult, but suddenly you feel like a child again and like you're orphaned. It's a loss that makes you feel abandoned, even if you still have a whole lot of family left. It's because your portal left. It's because your gateway left. It's because the portal into this dimension is gone. And so you have to grant a different kind of space in order to process that. It's more than you don't get over it. You process that. And then you figure out, okay, now how do I move forward with this new evolved relationship that we have? It's because she's the portal. We used to dance together. That's so beautiful. Keep dancing together. If she sang, sing her favorite songs. Like if they like to cook the meals that they used to cook when you sit down at dinner, have dinner with them. Understand that because they're not a physical being, they can't eat it, but that they would enjoy having a nice conversation with you over dinner and watching you enjoy it. You don't have to give up all of the things that you used to do. Just understand that how you do it now just has evolved a little bit. I get smaller sometimes, or music. Yeah, I love that. Like, that's just so beautiful. When my mother first passed, she used to give me a lot of flowers. And I would just be in a random room, and then the room would fill up with like a smell of roses. And then after so many years, because we were not the type of family that had flowers in the house, my mother was a heavy smoker. She was like an old school smoker. And then after some years had passed, and I was through the sort of like that initial grief phase, her smell changed. Now it's cigarette smoke. And like I think I've said this before, but the house, and I don't smoke, but like the house will randomly at times just fill up with cigarette smoke. And I'll ask my husband, "Do you smell that?" And he's like, "No." And I was like, "You can't smell smoke?" And he's like, "No, but I can smell it. The whole house will just fill up with it." And then it's only in rooms that I'm usually in. So it's like it'll be predominantly in my bedroom, and it'll happen at night. It's not like in the morning. It'll happen at night, which is when she would chain smoke her cigarettes. She would come home from work and then chain smoke, and then the house and her room would just be fully like, you would open the door and it would just be like a waft. And so like it'll happen in my bedroom, and then I also spend a lot of time in my office, and so it happens in my office specifically when I am like mulling over like a problem that I'm trying to find a solution for, something that I probably would have asked her like for help on or like advice for, that it'll happen then too. Learn to like recognize the signs, right? Like they're there, they're still talking to you. It's just an evolved relationship because they're still living. Like if you're curious about what they do on the other side, they're busy. So this is something that people find really interesting is that they actually, I don't want to call it like life because I don't think the human brain really has an ability to like comprehend like what life means because it's not an afterlife. It's just like regular existence. And like they do things and they have hobbies and they explore and like sometimes they're busy and like sometimes they're traveling and where they're going like it can literally be as simple as like they're going from planet to planet because they just kind of it'd be like me going oh I want to go to Barcelona. I heard they had really pretty beaches. It's similar to that and they just kind of sort of go about their life and they like do things and they're like their spirit is like really busy and like yeah, they get like they've got shit to do and they've got schedules and like there's been times where I've been like, Ma, we're like, what have you been doing? And then she's been like, I'm busy. My sister is always very busy. She's always exploring and like doing shit and whatever. But like they are okay. And they're there. And if you want them, just shout their name out. You may, depending on their personality, you may got to shout them out 3 times. Shout their name out. If you got a question that you want to ask them, ask them. Don't feel like, oh, I had this one question, but I never really had an opportunity. No, ask them. Say it out loud. Ask that question and then allow yourself to sit in a moment of silence so you can hear in order to receive what they would say to you because they're still going to answer your question. It's just the communication has also evolved, right? Because of domestic violence. And honestly, it caused me to have a huge awakening. And I'm still awakening in all the relationships I keep getting into as well. Oh my gosh. Oh, I feel for you, Jay baby. I do. I do. Because like things like that are crazy. It's so weird. Like seeing you guys in the chat because it's like so much of our experiences are so mirrored. You know, that was my sister's story. She was murdered and it was domestic violence. And that is what triggered it. That's what triggered all of my stuff. And like one moment, like she was alive and we were like kikiing on the phone. And then like a few hours later, that was it. She was gone. And um, yeah, yeah. And it was a domestic violence situation. So it's hard. It's hard, especially when it's that kind of situation. It's hard not to know whether or not you're sad or you're grieving, if you're angry at the person who did it, right? It's a lot of nuanced feelings that sometimes feel really conflicting. Are there other ways to strengthen the bond with my loved ones or was way to like or was way to better communicate to better communicate other than using my altar? No, using your altar is fine. It just depends on how you want to talk to them and how you communicate. Some people like doing like automatic writing. So like you just wait for a time when you feel quiet and receptive and you get a blank journal and you start writing a letter to them and in that letter you can tell them how you feel. You can ask them questions and you can sit and wait until your pen starts moving and the answers start flowing out of you from their side. That's one way. You can ask them to leave you signs. You can pick a sign and it doesn't have to be generic. It doesn't have to be like, I want to see a butterfly. It can be something that you feel like is an inside joke between the two of you. And you can say to them, let this be our sign, you know, whenever you're around, whenever you visit or whatever, like show me this particular sign and then you can build up a relationship that way. What you're doing is changing the symbolism. So the way we communicate now is all through symbolism, right? You send someone a text message, those letters are symbols. It's all symbolism. And so now that they're on the sign that they're on, all you're doing is changing the symbols that you use to communicate with that person because they cannot text you, right? And so you figure out these symbols by choosing symbols that are meaningful to you. You can call it a password, right? Like back like when you were a kid, what was the password to get in, right? You can call it a password. It can be an inside joke that only they would know, and then use that as the symbol. Use it as a way to create more symbols to let them know that they are around. If you like having smells, if you like smelling flowers from them, you can tell them what kind of flower you would like to smell. Now, I don't want to smell a rose. I want to smell, I don't know, a tulip. You pick the flower, right? And let them give you tulips, right? Like you're just going to change the symbolism that you want to see from them. If you want to see something, like physically see something, tell them what it is that you want to see, right? And if you want to hear music, tell them what kind of music you would like to hear or what the songs are, right? For them to use in order to communicate with you. Ooh, hey, Canada. I don't know how we got here, but obviously it was something that you guys needed to talk about, and I'm totally okay with that. Because it's something that is so natural, but we don't talk about it in a way that is normalized. Things like this happen. You have your loved ones that transition. You get 3 days of bereavement from work, and then you're back into society like nothing happened. And no, you lost nobody that you loved, and that your life didn't just flip upside down, right? And so I think it's healthy to have like normalized conversations about things like this. I think it's healthy to be like, hey, I really miss this person, right? Because it's normal and it's natural, and like these things happen. Ooh, we've got a whole lot of Canada. Okay, so we were off on a tangent, but I'm going to bring it back just a little bit though. We don't have to force it. We can just keep whatever was flowing and keep it flowing. And if that is what needed to come out today, that's what it needed to come out today. And we'll see what our final messages are, and then we'll call it. There was one other because I don't want to forget, and I don't know, where this fits and what you guys got going on. But one thing that came out was you do not have to sacrifice your happiness of today for the satisfaction that's in your future. You can be both happy now and satisfied later. You can be both happy and grateful for the way your life looks now, and also really excited for what it's going to look like when your life changes. It doesn't have to be one or the other. You don't have to give away your happiness now in order to be happy later. You don't have to sacrifice what's going on now in order to be happy later. It all happens in the same time, right? And you can do things to be happy for 5 minutes, right? Like, for example, obviously within reason. I'm not telling you to go out here and blow all your money, right? But let's say you go to Target, there's a candle, right? And you sniff it and it brings you happiness, and you're like, I really want this candle, right? And something in you goes, I probably shouldn't take this. I probably shouldn't buy this candle. If you know that there isn't any form of detrimental impact by you having the candle, you can have the candle. Even if you feel like you're going to take it home, you're going to light it one time and you're going to be happy all of 10 minutes, you can do that. Like you can be happy all of 10 minutes. You don't have to put it back and be like, oh, well, I'm not going to enjoy the whole candle. I'm only going to enjoy a little bit of the candle. That's okay. You're allowed to only enjoy a little bit of the candle. And I think what happens is people go, be grateful for all that you have. And yeah, there's a lot of merit to that. But like you can also just be like happy in moments too. You don't have to wait to be happy when it comes to little things. And then also understand that there is an aspect to happiness that can be short term. There's an aspect to satisfaction that can be short term. I don't know about you, but I have never experienced something that brought me satisfaction that lasted forever, right? I get 2 days out of it max. But I'm going to tell you, those 2 days are wonderful days. Like you're allowed to give yourself those 2 days, right? Society teaches us this concept of delayed gratification. And again, it's just a way to try to maintain order, because if everybody was out here chasing their happiness, you wouldn't have anybody working in the factories, right? It's just a way to maintain order. But like everything in moderation, including moderation, okay? Allow yourself to experience things. People will go, and this is like coming out pretty heavy, like vacations. People will go on vacation maybe once a year. They will save their entire satisfaction. They will save a year's worth of happiness and satisfaction for like a week vacation. That's asinine. Why are you doing that? Don't do that. If that's all you think about, then it's part of the plan. If it's in your heart, it's part of the plan. I don't care if you're in your heart, you're like, I want to be rich and famous. Not everybody wants to be rich, and not everyone wants to be famous. Not everyone has the balls to be famous. Not everyone wants to deal with what could come from being famous. Not everybody likes money. Not everybody knows how to take care of money. Not everybody enjoys responsibilities that come with money, like increased taxes. Not everyone wants to be rich, and not everyone wants to be famous. But if you feel like you want to be rich and famous and it's sitting in your heart, it's part of the plan, bro. You're welcome. Yeah, I had to switch it up because when I tell you, I didn't know what to do with that algorithm. I really didn't. Oh, Iceland. I love Iceland too. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah, I didn't. I had to figure out another way because the algorithm. I was gonna say the algorithm wasn't working for me, but recently I've gotten to a point where I was like, no, girl, that's not the problem. The problem is that you're not working with the algorithm. The algorithm has things that it likes, and those are things I don't want to do. So I had to take some accountability from, oh shit. I don't want to do what the algorithm wants me to do. That's really what the problem is. Why? Because it's not me and it's not authentic to me. Once upon a time, social media was about being social. It was about forming community and relationships with people. And you built social media accounts based off of the relationship and the community that you built. Whereas now social media has changed. It's now interest based. So people tune in to what they are interested in, but they're tuning into the content itself. They're not tuning into the person that's producing the content. And that is why you have like some creators that have a problem with it, like me, because I don't want to follow trends. But then you have some accounts who do really trendy things that do really, really well. But then you'll notice that you know nothing about them. And so like the connection in the community wasn't built, but they don't really need to build them because that's not really where social media is anymore. It's changed. And so like you'll see this a lot. Like anyone that like watches like tarot accounts, you'll notice that like some of those accounts, they do really well. And because they are following the interest, they're following the trends, but you'll notice that a lot of those creators, you don't really know too much about them. There is no community because that's not what social media is anymore. But I don't want to do trends because I don't want to keep up with them. I don't really care enough, Oh, by the way, speaking of tarot, it's like a mini book update. It is because last time I gave you guys an update on the book, I was talking about the endorsement process and how I was like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to do this because I don't know these people and they don't know me. And I don't know why anybody would want to endorse something I wrote and they don't know who I am. Like, why would you do that? But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to kind of like shoot for it and see what happens. And like what I did was because I had a moment of, I don't know if it was just like, it could have been imposter syndrome. It could have been just a period of like self-doubt where I was like, I don't know why anyone would do this. I'm just me, right? I had one of those moments of like, I'm just little old me. Like, why would anyone do this? But then I had another moment where I was like, girl, snap out of it. Like, shit, if you don't know anybody, you might as well just shoot for the big ones. You know what I mean? Like, reach out to the people who like you actually genuinely admire, who like do good work, who are accomplished, who are current bestsellers, and see what happens. You don't know any of them, so you might as well just kind of like shoot and see if you land in the stars somewhere. And I will say, I landed in the stars. I did. I landed in the stars. And like some people came through that I did not expect that I would hear from. It was really one of those, like, kind of like, when you like throw away a flyaway resume and you don't think you're going to get the job, but then you hear from them. It was like that. I was like, holy shit. So I'm really excited about it. Some people like were like, totally, we'll do it. And I feel like super honored by them. And like, I like high key, very silently fanned out really hard. So I'm really excited about it. Oh, I'm saying because this came out last week. And so there's emphasis. Am I willing? You are on the edge of something great. Can you feel it? Yes, there's a risk, uncertainty, and imperfections ahead. Failure is certain, and vulnerability is a requirement. You must be brave and trust yourself more than ever before. You will reach the dream, but you must stretch yourself into a whole new level of belief and willingness in order to move forward with courage. Be brave, follow your heart's compass, and lift the lid on your own dreams. Today's mantra: it's possible. I love that. It's possible at the bottom. I have a thing that actually is hanging up on my wall, a sign that hangs up on my wall. So, I mean, you can't see it, and I've got too much going on here to flip the camera around, but it's like literally when I look up, and the idea behind it was that whenever I was like working and I'm on the computer and then I get really frustrated, I'm like, oh my God, I can't figure this out. When I was like putting together my office, what I wanted was to be able to look up and then suddenly feel inspired. And so, literally in front of me, there's a sign that says impossible, but the I and the M is crossed out. And that's the only thing that's hanging up on that side of the wall. And so I really like this because I feel like this is something that we were talking about. And it also, came up with the job thing where it's like, but you sometimes you think you're moving, but you're not moving. Sometimes you think you're going forward, but you're actually not going forward. Sometimes you think you want it, but are you willing to do it? Right. And not being willing to do it doesn't mean that like you don't care. It just means that like there's a lot of unanswered questions that's psyching you out right now, and so you're putting up a wall of protection because you don't know what's on the other side, right? But the only thing that's constant is change, and you have to keep moving forward if you want to go anywhere or do anything at all. And when your heart starts to sing, it's time for you to move forward. And the majority of the time, you're going to look around and you're going to realize that you're going to be moving forward by yourself. It's very rare that there are people who want to move forward at the same time. And if you are, that's great. But if you're not, that's also great. It just means it's time to move forward. It's time to experience something new, but you have to be willing, right? Being brave isn't about being fearless, right? Like, you can be ready to absolutely shit yourself. But if that's where you are, then I'm going to need you to put on a depends and keep it moving. Okay. Don't go sit down because you got your bowels are acting up, you know? Like, I'm going to need you to make some accommodations. Like, do something for it. Okay. So I'm feeling a little queasy. Take a Dramamine, you know? But you got to keep going. If you are going through something, you're going through grief, loss, hurt, betrayal, even confusion. It could just be as simple as confusion. Not knowing the next step, you got 3 days. I'm going to do you like how my mama did me. You got 3 days. I'm going to let you pick your days, but you got 3 of them. And when you finish, I'm going to need you to stand back up. Okay? One more time for the people in the back. It's possible. It's possible. Delulu is the Solulu. And if you feel like you're making it up, then you know you're on the right track because you are making it up. You're supposed to be making it up. That's the game. That's the part that people figured out. Think about like, what's his name? Jeff Bezos, Amazon. The early interviews that he did, I don't know if anyone has seen any of his early interviews, and I'm talking early. I'm talking like when things were in Technicolor, early interviews, right? Back when Amazon, he was doing Amazon in his garage and he was selling books and there wasn't goods. It was just a bookstore, it was an online bookstore. And there's this interview that he did. He went on one of the late night shows and he was pitching his idea, like Amazon is going to be the new greatest thing, blah, 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 blah. And I don't remember who the late night host was because, again, like we're talking Technicolor, but they laughed at him. He was like, it's the next biggest thing. And the late night host was like, online shopping. Like, and it was like this very clear dig at this man on television. Like, people thought he was crazy. People thought he was delusional. And he held on to his delusion. And look where he is today. Not everyone is a visionary. A lot of people are blind. Not everyone's meant to lead. Most people are meant to follow. They're not going to see it the way you see it. I'm delusional. I use it in the wrong parts of my life. Look, listen. It happens to the best of us. Prior to getting married, I also used it in the wrong parts of my life. I would date dudes and I was very delulu. Oh, this one is going to work. You know what I mean? Like, this is it. This is the guy. Knowing damn well that it wasn't the guy. My heart being like, girl, move on, right? But then my brain fighting and being like, no. We can fix this. I couldn't fix it. I could have never fixed it, right? But I will say that I've also gotten a significant amount of things from being absolutely delusional. I have lived my life in a way that other people felt was crazy. So much so that I literally, because my life is changing, I talked about this, and it's changing drastically. And it's one of those things where like, it's delusional, right? It's like delusional levels of change. And I like know that it's changing because like I have insight or like foresight and like I can see and hear and like I've got, beings being like, all right, girl, we need you to prepare this, do this and do that or whatever. So I know. But when I tell you it's so drastic of a change that I was like, it's time to tell my husband, who appreciates a very normal way of living. And I had to tell him, honey, I don't think that this is what our life is going to look like when we hit retirement. And braced myself because I was like, any regular person would think that what I'm about to say is crazy. But on account of the fact that I'm married to him, he deserves this much. He deserves a notice at a minimum, right? And so I was like, it's time to notify him. And it was delusional, I think, to some people's ears. But do I think it was possible? Without a doubt, 1,000%. And I think that that's the difference between me and a lot of other people. I like being delusional. It's fun, My Delulu got me my man. Yes. Okay, we got a couple minutes and I'm gonna wrap up. For those of you that never heard the story, so I built my man like a Build-A-Bear. I literally, when I tell you, so the delusion started from K-pop. I'm not going to lie to you. It was K-pop and it was K-drama. And suddenly I realized there was a beauty that existed in the world that I did not know existed. And everyone thought I was crazy. And then on top of that, I was like, wait a minute. This is actually a culture that I feel like I like resonate with on not in a weird way, but like in a different way, because it's just so not Western, right? And like, I'm someone that is super liberal, but then like also conservative. I like to cherry pick when gender roles come into play, right? And the thing about dating in the West is that like they don't let me do that anymore. Like women can't cherry pick, men can't cherry pick. People want you to like be standardized, and like that's not me. And something about the culture of it all, it just fit. I understood it. I respected it. It didn't feel like something that I needed to take an enormous amount of time to learn, understand, and respect. I just got it. For some reason, the language just kind of made sense to me. I just got it. I was attracted to the men. It made sense to me. I just got it. And I was like, I think I'm going to do that because I observed their like culture around marriage and their views around marriage. And it's a lot more traditional. And I did not have time for the dudes that I was meeting on Hinge. I just couldn't deal with grown men who were like, I don't know what I want. Like, you pay taxes. Like, what do you mean you don't know what you want? And I couldn't deal with it anymore. So I was like, I'm going to find a culture that's a lot more deliberate in how they do things because I don't want to waste my time. And granted, in Korean culture, a lot has changed and it's not the same with Gen Z. Thank God my man's not Gen Z, right? And so, like, he's like one of the last of them in terms of like generations, right? Like, if you go into like the upper millennial range, there's still some that are there type thing. And it was just less bullshit. I just had less bullshit to deal with. And the culture matched up and it just clicked. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper. And then I made a vision board and I made a digital one because I wanted to be fancy. I was like, someone give me my iPad. And I crafted a digital vision board of this man. And he showed up 4 months later. He showed up 4 months later. We were engaged 2 months later, and now we're married. And I'm also very happily still delusional about it too. You know what I mean? Like, even in the marriage, like, I'm very much like, oh, honey, I don't want to do that thing. Even though I probably should do it. And he's like, okay, honey. Like, I had it where I need someone who like doesn't take me seriously, who is unoffended by me and the shit that comes out of my mouth, who like someone that's like, okay, that's just her doing her. Someone that like lets me play in the sandboxes that I like to create for myself. And like it's just not that big of a deal to them. Someone that wasn't weirded out by the fact that I have crystals everywhere. You know, and so I was very deliberate. I even was like, I need him to speak the language. I need to be of it. Because, you know, in Korean culture, it's one thing to be a Korean, but it's another thing to be of the culture. And they've got a thing culturally. And I was like, I need him to be of the culture, of the language. I was very, very specific about it. And then he showed up and he walked in and then, you know, we go to the drawing board. What app? Oh my God. What app did I use? I used GoodNotes. I made it in GoodNotes. And I went on Google Images and I pulled all the images that I put on my and I just put it in my GoodNotes app. I found like a grid, like a vision board grid. You can I just pulled it from the internet. And then just pieced it together and put little hearts and stuff all over it. And it was great. And then was running around telling everyone that I didn't want to get married. So this is where the delusion kicked in. I knew that I wanted something. I wanted to be married. I wanted it to be sustainable. I wanted it to be long term. But because I knew I was like, I don't know maybe it's because I'm Black, but people found it weird that like I was into Asian men, and people voiced their displeasure and about it. And that was really weird for me because I was like, well, it's not like I'm bothering you, but it was weird. So nobody knew, like people around me didn't know that I was like pursuing, right? And yeah, even when we started dating, he didn't know. But when I had a feeling that like he was going to propose, I remember having like, I should tell them conversations. And the conversations weren't, oh, I met a guy. It was, hey, yeah, so I've been seeing somebody and I don't think he's actually going anywhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if we actually got married, but you know, just so you know. And then I would like back out of the conversation. And then, yeah. So then when I did get engaged, everyone was like, I didn't even know you had a boyfriend. And I was like, I know. Oh, 34 years. I love that. Yeah, people are ignorant. They just say crazy things, you know? They just say crazy things. But that's okay, you know? Because they're miserable and they're single. You know, so they can do like whatever they want. And I spend my time watching K-dramas and listening to K-pop in the car and eating kimbap. And like that's my life. And like whatever, you know. Y'all do you. I'll do me. And I like living in my crazy bubble because my crazy bubble works and it gets me things. And it's like a manifestation hotspot, you know? So, yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap. Let's wrap, guys, because I've been going on for an hour and 30 minutes and I'm parched and I want to go lay down. You guys don't ever notice this, or maybe you do notice this, but I literally do these lives in my pajamas. And then I go straight from here to like the bed and I just pass out. So today's gonna be one of those days. So I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna go pass out. And I hope you guys have a really awesome evening. And I love you all. And I won't see you next week because I will be in the streets for my birthday, but I will see you the week after that.